Welcome, MotoAmerica fans, to this latest edition of Off Track with Carruthers and Bice. I cannot believe we're at the final round of the season. We're at New Jersey Motorsports Park this weekend, and it's like the last day of school. I always say that. It feels like, long goodbyes, and we see these guys a little bit during the off season, but it's really a lot of camaraderie, and it's a family, it's a village in our paddock, and it's pretty poignant. But Daytona will be here next year, and it's going to be a super sport points counting race, and we're going to talk about some of that today with I guess we'll call this the state of the series we do with Chuck Aksland every year. We get to ask him some questions. He gets to tell us some insights. So welcome, Chuck. Glad to have you on here. And the schedule is out, and we got a lot of things to talk about. So
good.
This is our one chance to actually find out what's going on at MotoAmerica.
Yes, it is. Got to get him cornered on the mic.
Well, you said it's like the last day of school. For me, it's like the first day because now my busy period starts.
Right.
Yeah.
Doing all the stuff
It's funny
you're doing.
that the calendars, I don't know if it's the most important thing you do, but it's obviously very important, and I know it's time consuming, and it's like this giant puzzle that you're dealing with because there's other people that need racetracks to race on in America, and there's not an abundance of them that we can go to. So is that one of your toughest things of the year?
I'd always like to get it finished earlier, but it just seems like every year there's somebody that's got to wait on something, and it doesn't fall into place as quick as I would like each year. This year there's been a few tracks swapping dates, Mid-Ohio and VIR. So, it's like you said, you put it in a good way. It's like a puzzle, and you're dealing with, 10 different entities trying to put this puzzle together. I think we're fortunate that a lot of our tracks, we have good equity dates. We've been at the same time each year now for a number of years. So it's not that it's getting easier, but it is getting easier in some light for sure.
Yeah, if you can figure half of them are pretty much easier to deal with because they're going to take roughly the same date.
Exactly, yeah.
And the fans count on it too. It's like they know it's kind of their round to come here from if they're nearby or if they go to that round. It's like I can count on that every year to be around that time. So,
well, I think, the next step is to get tickets on sale. And I think, we're getting more inquiries about, hey, when's the schedule coming out, for this year, for next year, probably more so than any other year, which is good.
Yeah.
People are looking forward to, hey, I need to get my camping, for Road America, Laguna Seca, even here, I think camping sold out this year. So, it's getting, it's good that there's some urgency to it now, and that people are, got a good time to mark on their calendars, and they're planning that far ahead. So it's good.
So if the calendar is difficult, the rules, the rules have to rank somewhere up there as well. I know that's not entirely in your lap, but a lot of it's got to be.
Yeah, I think to a certain extent, all the partners involved in some of the rules, because there's a number of things that get affected by change. This year with going in for next year, the Superbike Cup, affects a lot. Affects a lot of people in different ways. Having the Daytona 200 as a points paying race has effect on people. Generally, people don't like change, but. So between myself, Wayne, Richard and Terry are involved in it as well. Obviously Teague and Nicole, everybody's got comments, and but it's ideally we want to keep things as consistent as we can. So, but like for next year, there was a sense of urgency for the Superbikes because that is our premier class. We're going to keep the rules the same for 26 and 27. And so our commitment is to make that class as strong as we can, have as many bikes on the grid as we can. And also we want as many of our top names in the Superbike class in one race as we can. So, we felt that that was a direction to go for next year. And it's not unusual because we started that way, right? In 15, 16, I think through 17, we had the Stock 1000 and Superbike combined. So it's really a renaming of Stock 1000 to Superbike Cup. And I think the competition will be good. I mean, we saw last week what Toprak did on a Superbike Cup level bike at COTA, at a track day. So get the right guy on the right bike in that circumstance could do some damage.
Yeah, I want to ask you, speaking of competition, a little bit about this year in this round. So you got to be as thrilled as we are. I know you are. We've got what's happening in Superbike. We got 3 guys that are in it to win it. It's 3 different manufacturers. I mean, it's the premier class. Supersport's got coming right down to the wire too. It's got to be a good feeling to have. I don't know if we call it parity, but the fact that it's been a competitive series all along, and kind of some riders have gone up and down this year, but it kind of levels out in the end where we got what we got.
Yeah, and I think a number of times you'd look up on the standings, during Superbike qualifying or the race, and there's 5 manufacturers, right? Top 5. So I think that's pretty unique. I think we're doing a good job with how we have the rules. It is a little bit different than World Superbike, in the way that they're balancing versus the way we balance things. But no, it's great, and it's good to see the arrival of Honda in the Superbike class. So yeah, we're really happy. And then coming down to 3 races this weekend, we got 3 guys in the hunt for the championship. Unpredictable weather, who knows what could happen. So I don't think you could really script a better end of the series.
You brought it up that we used to have, I think back then it was Superstock 1000 in the Superbike race.
Yep.
People have come up to me and said, well, that didn't work. What makes you think this is going to work? What's your answer to that? Because you'd have a better one than I do.
It wasn't that it didn't work. I mean, actually, you had Matthew Skoltz won a Superbike race on a stock 1000, Super stock 1000, as it was then. We had some pretty competitive guys in it, but we thought the way the Superbike class was growing, it could sustain itself with the number of entries and the bikes that were at that time. And so we split them up, and we wanted the stock 1000 at that time to be more of an entry level class. But what it's turned into, JD Beach obviously is not an entry level rider.
Right.
Andrew Lee is not. Jason Uribe is not. So it's kind of, that side of it was a little bit different than we had hoped or planned. But yeah, I mean, we'll just see. We think for this time now, this is the right direction.
Yeah, I mean, Chuck, we've always, in the history of MotoAmerica, we've always been very cognizant of cost control and trying to keep it affordable as much as we can. One of the things about the fact that Stock 1000 is going away, and it had always had a massive number of entries, they only did 5 rounds. So these teams kind of have to step up a little bit in terms of expenditure for next year. They're racing it, obviously, all the rounds. Mm-hmm. So that obviously weighed into your decision. That had to be tough to deal with. How did you come to grips with that whole thing?
Well, I'll give you an example. When we flipped it and only had 5 rounds, when we started that, we got complaints about how come we're not racing
yes,
at every race.
Exactly.
So, yeah, I mean, it's a challenge. We have challenges every day in the series in the paddock, but ideally, if we have somewhere between 20 and 30 guys on the Superbike grid, I'm satisfied with that. So I think we'll be able to meet that target.
Yeah, I mean, that'll be great to have that. And I mean, we've already heard some of the teams are looking at doing things, Yeah. I know even like for Orange Cat stepping up for this round, and they've added some stuff to those bikes too. Not completely all the way fully Superbikes, and we'll see what they do next year, but I mean, it's kind of a little taste of what that might be for next year too. And as you said, JD Beach, I mean, he's done so well on that bike, and it's a testament to Honda too, obviously, how good that bike is.
Yeah, for sure. No, to put a stock 1000 bike on the podium at MotoAmerica was a pretty good achievement, for sure.
Yeah.
Or Mid-Ohio, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so while we're talking about pushback, the Daytona 200, right? I mean, I thought from the start I would have liked to have seen it be a championship round because, I don't know, it just felt like it should be, and it's kind of the way it was.
Right.
We didn't do that for the first couple of years, and now we've decided to do that. What sort of pushback are you getting on that? And what kind of positives are you getting on it?
Probably more pushback than positives at the moment. But, I mean, Paul and Sean too, we've been around when that's been one of the world's most prestigious rounds, right? And it was a championship points paying round. There is some additional cost for the teams to do it for sure, but it's if you look on our YouTube channel, we don't have any other races that have over 2 million views on for a race. And if you look at last year's race on YouTube, it didn't get close to 1 million. So I think part of that was there was less rider participation. I think there were 36 entries. We didn't have all of our top guys there, all of our top teams. And if we're going to build that back into one of the most prestigious races in the world, we need our best guys there. And, to me, it's not unusual for that to be a points paying race. Maybe
right.
A lot of the guys that are having the pushback don't remember those days because we are getting old, as we talked about earlier. But to me, if we want that race to be what it used to be or what it could be, it needs to be important, and it needs to be important for the championship.
And talking to you a little bit earlier, there's been a lot of interest again from overseas riders. So you think if an overseas guy can make that commitment, that
I've already had inquiries from Australia. Peter Doyle's been in touch with me. There's 3 or 4 Australian teams that want to come over. We've talked to Honda. Can they participate in it with some Japanese riders? I don't know if that'll come off or not, but hopefully, the Yart team were here 2 years ago. They won the World Championship again. So, hopefully they could make it. There's been a lot of UK interest again. So, yeah, it's I understand the team's concerned with the cost, but if you look at it, like, how come the international guys could do it and our domestic guys can't? It's kind of brings up some questions. I mean, it'd be good, and we're looking for ways to increase the purse and get some more incentive to help everybody. I mean, that's an ongoing challenge and an ongoing thing that we'll deal with, and we're doing that in conjunction with Frank and the Speedway. So hopefully in the end it'll work out and everybody will be satisfied.
We still get, it's surprising sometimes that we still get commentary about the Daytona 200 and why is it not Superbikes? And I mean, we talk about it all the time. And it always seems odd to me because you think about our Supersport class now, especially this next generation, those really are what Superbike was for sure at one point. And, and then the thousands got out there and it was a little bit of a different situation. But I don't know, it's still that many laps on a Superbike at that speed. With those tires, I don't know. It's a tough one.
Well, I mean, there's been enough people now doing with the next gen bike. They already have the equipment. So if we made the switch to super bikes,
pushback.
Talk about some increased cost.
Well, I never even thought about that.
Wayne would love to have it as a super bike race again. We talk about that all the time, and maybe down the road there's some way to do it. But for right now, we are where we are. Dunlop, depends which day you talk to them. Tires will either be okay or they won't.
Right.
Right. But it would take a lot of testing and a lot of effort on a lot of people's part. And if you ever want to get like a 60 rider field, I think it's going to be really hard on super bikes.
It'd be so much harder than it used to be. Absolutely. I mean, Supersport, our entries this year have been really good. So, and Daytona, like you said, with the international attention too, and now that it's going to be points paying for next year, those teams that are like, well, I guess I can skip that one, they're going to be involved for sure.
Hope so. Hope so.
It should be good.
And Dunlop also has a tire that there's baggers guys going almost 190 miles an hour.
That's right.
With a 600-pound motorcycle.
Right.
Yeah. So it kind of disproves the Superbike thing a little bit.
It's true. Yeah.
Maybe you'd have to have another pit stop. I don't know, because they do 6 laps. But the
200 makes it difficult that it's 200 miles, obviously. But
it doesn't seem either. Like years past, especially at Daytona, there was always talk about tires chunking. I never hear that term chunking anymore. It's cold tearing or something with that, which has to do with the the characteristics of the tire, not some kind of failure, massive failure.
Haven't really seen a failure there in quite a while.
No,
knock on wood.
But, we don't have that as much anymore. And obviously, the ones that are putting it to the test are those heavy bikes and baggers. So, but no, it's going to be interesting. I'm so glad it's going to happen, and I mean, it increases the prestige a little bit for that and our Supersport class too. It makes you wonder if these teams that come over and do the 200, if they're getting points and they do okay in that first round, maybe they'd continue to race during the season.
Maybe they'll stay. Yeah, that'd be great. Stay. Yeah.
So one thing, Chuck, this is kind of a question, but it's more like, what do you think of this thought? It occurred to me, our series has matured, obviously, 10 years, 11 years. The riders that we have that people were like, oh, it's not like Ben Spies and Matt Mladen. Well, it's gotten to the point where it's, the Herons and the Bobiers and the Sean Dillon Kellys and the Escalantes and everybody that's involved now, obviously, Bobby Fong. We have developed riders that have a following now, and it doesn't feel like it's that way. And your guy, Kenny Roberts, I remember Miguel Duhamel told me one time he was on a radio show at Daytona, and I guess Kenny said something like, oh, the riders aren't like they were back then. And it was Miguel and those guys, the guys that we think. So it's every year, right?
Yeah.
And it feels like now we have such a following and we've got such good attendance now, and people do root for these guys. It's been a maturity of the class. Don't you think so?
No, 100%. And I think, you hear a lot about well, World Superbike guy, if they came over here, be competitive, or our guys aren't competitive as much as the BSB guys. You always got this, dialogue going on. But I think in every national championship or world championship, it's hard to come into that, that arena and beat the guys at their series, on their tires, on their tracks. And we've seen that in the past with Petrucci and Loris.
That's right.
Nobody's come in here and walked it.
Not at all. Right.
There's rumors of Mikey Vandermark coming over. I don't think he'll come and walk it, but
Right.
I think he'll be up for a challenge, and just going to enhance our series if, he was to make that move. So,
Yeah.
It's like you said earlier, there's 5 different manufacturers competitive. We got 3 guys coming down to the championship final round. If not for a couple other circumstances, it could have been more,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
hopefully the class continues to grow and get stronger, and the fan base will continue to grow.
And I think the fan base is the way it is now. It's with the names that you named off. It's that way because we'd all like somebody to go and be world champion. But when that happens, you lose one of your stars.
Right.
And I think we're in this period where like all our stars are here.
Yeah.
And they've been here for a while. And I think they've got that fan following now. And that's actually a good thing for MotoAmerica.
Well, we're seeing that we're getting a lot of new followers, a lot of new people, a lot of new interest in the sport. And those people are getting used to the names of Josh Herron and Cameron Bobier and Bobby Fong and Sean Dillon Kelly. And, if after 1 year they're gone, then that's not good in
Right.
a way.
Right. The fan has to start over again.
Exactly. So, no, I think everything's building up nice.
Yeah. Let's talk about the new venture this year, the inaugural season of Parts Unlimited Talent Cup by Motul. How do you feel personally about it? Are you feeling good about where it ended up? I mean, there have been some things that's gone under in the year, nothing major, but some things that teams have had to adapt to, I guess. Is it what you expected? Is it better than you expected? What do you think?
I would like to see more bikes on the grid, but I think overall, I think most of the races we had 13, 14 kids, and, really nobody heard of Bodie Page before, Hank Vosberg, nobody really knew who he was. And now all of a sudden, these kids, DeMario, obviously he had some following from Twins and, the other stuff he ran with us, but, you could already see you got a whole nother generation of young talent coming through. And, here in, I think 2 weeks, we got 4 kids, going to try out for the Red Bull rookies. And, a good example of what we tried to set up was Kensai. He won our Mini Cup 160 championship or 190 championship. And, we got him onto a Talent Cup bike at COTA, and he's going to go try out for the Red Bull rookies. So, he didn't, although he does race in Spain, this is a little bit different path, and really
Right.
what we wanted to help bridge, so you didn't have to move to Spain to do it. So, you could just do what he's doing in a way.
Yeah.
So I think, it's been great to have Kenny back in the paddock as well. Cody Kopp, you can see how much he's improved, from the first race to the last. And I think it was good that we had the second race at COTA to see how much they did improve. And I think it was a couple seconds on the lap time. So it was good.
It was. Yeah.
So yeah, overall, I think we're pleased with it.
Yeah. And so onward and upward, next year will be Kramer APX and more with that development.
Yeah, there was a 3-year agreement with Kramer. So, there's been a lot of challenges for them, unfortunately, with everything from tariffs to KTM situation and so forth. But
that was crazy with the tariffs. I mean, when we had Joe Carvinen on, it was really hard for them, and it still is.
Still is, for sure. And the KTM deal didn't really help it. There's a lot of uncertainty around that whole thing, but hopefully that all smooth out and, stabilize, and, we just get on with it.
Yeah.
I thought the series it was about what I expected. What concerned me was that there was going to be somebody that was going to be a lot better than the other guys, than the other kids. And Alessandro was that early, but they kind of gained in big chunks where he continues to improve, as he always will, but they were improving in big enough chunks that they could start to get to the point where they were racing with him. And I thought that was pretty cool.
No, I think it was great. It was good that he participated in the class because there was some doubt he was going to do it. But he gave everybody a target,
right?
And that, for Bodie and those guys to step up and chase him and beat him on occasion. I think, to me, one of the biggest surprises probably for DeMario was at COTA when Kensai came by him down the back straight on the first lap of the second race. So, no, it was good. He he was the carrot, and so I think that helped all the other guys in the class improve.
Yeah, and I mean I know talking with like Blake Davis in the past, he moved up pretty quickly and got into super sport, and a lot of our young riders are of that opinion. I want to be in a class that's a little bit over my head, and right. I want to try to aim for it. So, and it has helped. Obviously, look what Blake is doing now, and sure. I'm sure it's going to help DeMario next year. I know it would have been cool to see him in Rookies Cup. That would have been awesome. But if there is some talk about America grows big kids. And DeMario is a little bit bigger. Obviously, Cody Kopp.
Right.
We saw maybe Rocco might have been a little bit too big when he went over there. I don't know how. I'm not sure how much of a factor that is or how that works. But Alessandro clearly wanted to race Super Sport this year and couldn't
right.
find a ride, so he was destined to do that. So that seems fine, right?
Yeah, and talking to him, I had a good conversation with him at Mid-Ohio when we did the Talent Cup at VMD, and. When he was in Italy, he raced against a lot of the kids that are, in Red Bull rookies now or kind of coming up, and he recognized there was a pretty big size difference amongst some of them. So, he kind of hinted to me that really he would like to see his path Super Sport and then maybe try Moto 2 when he gets that experience to get on that.
Okay.
But I think it's a blessing in one way and a hindrance in another, because we started the Talent Cup and we started the series to help develop talent to go to Europe. But now if you ask a lot of these younger kids, they just want to be the MotoAmerica Superbike champion. They're not even thinking about
right.
the World Championship, which
right.
is in a way is kind of cool. And if they choose to do that, we're happy with that too. So
I mean, it's a testament to our series that they want to do that. I don't know if it's their home bodies so much, but it's like they see the competition there and want to aspire to that. But yeah. It's good. Chuck, what do you think of the fact? So I cover this a fair amount. I try to. We have a number of riders that had been in our series that are racing in other series around the world. It seems like that's one of the things we kind of aim to do. It'd be nice to have them continue to race with us. But what do you think of those riders that are in like junior GP and those kind of things elsewhere?
I think if you're racing anywhere at a competitive level and getting experience, it's good. But for a lot of those kids and their families, it's a huge sacrifice to go. I know of some families that have sold their houses. They moved to Spain, and it takes 3-4 years to get. To kind of get where they want to be. And like I mentioned, Peter Clifford kind of confirmed this when he came over for COTA, the MotoGP race, because one question was, can a kid the right talent still accelerate, get to Red Bull rookies, do well in that, and still go to Moto 3 without spending that time in Europe? And he agreed that the right kid could still do that. So, we don't want an American kid to have to sell their house and move over there if
right.
they don't have to. If they could have this chance and either make it happen or not, and then they come back and race here, that's good too. But but if we could help them get to the Moto 3 or Moto 2 World Championship, then that's good.
Or I think they're going to see the Talent Cup here because obviously it's its first year. So if you're a kid that's thinking about going to Europe, maybe you do go to Europe because you're not so sure what the Talent Cup's going to be.
Right.
Maybe now you see the success of the Talent Cup and you do turn that into maybe either a full-time career here or that be the stepping stone to where you want to be in Europe.
Yeah, and we had a few kids like Korea, that participates in the British Talent Cup. The results are kind of similar. I don't know if he would agree talent level is the same, but the results were there. I don't think he won a race here. So again, it was good to have him come race in our series so we could kind of judge where the British guys are too. And, I think again, the competition was good in the Talent Cup and we'll see how the kids do at the Red Bull Rookie Tryout.
Yeah. One thing that's interesting, I noticed, I really caught on to this last year at COTA in Superbike. You think about Moto 2 riders that are Americans, Josh Herron, Cameron Bobier, Sean Dillon Kelly. Well, they're all at the pointy end of Superbike. So, they were good riders when they went over there. Their experience in Moto 2 clearly helped them to be better. I mean, they know they got to be on it every lap and they don't take it. You don't take a lap off. You got to do it all the time. I think it's still, even if you don't completely, light the world on fire in Moto 2, it's still helpful.
It's the highest level of competition besides MotoGP, right?
Right.
So you're racing against the world's best, and anytime you're thrown into that arena, you're either going to sink or swim. And the results were, here or there, but they were still racing against the best riders in the world at that level. And, and they're all, from the Bobiers to Sean Dillon, like you said, Joe Rock, they're all
Roberts,
very,
yeah.
very competitive. And so, it's going to improve their riding for sure. And
They turned into better
racecraft,
swimmers.
100% for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Chuck, I asked you about this, I think, last year, and I'm going to ask you now again. So this is pie in the sky a little bit, and it relates a little bit to what we talked about earlier with the fact that the bikes in Daytona 200 are kind of what superbikes were at one time with displacement. So we're good with our superbike through 2027. You keep wondering what the manufacturers are going to do. This idea that MotoGP is going to get down to a smaller displacement, and they don't want World Superbike to maybe be, bigger displacement bikes. Where does that all shake out with us? Is it still too soon to even say or know what's going on, or is that coming eventually?
Well, personally, I think with what we did with the Superbike and the Superbike Cup rules, the way that we have those bikes, because there is some balancing involved, but they're not just stock, for the most part. Some are, some aren't. I think that's, over time, organically, people are going to choose, they're going to go the full Superbike, or the Cup rules are going to kind of dominate the thousands, or the manufacturers are going to decide we don't want to race thousands anymore. And then the Supersport would be the next, alternative. But, it's hard for us right now to rely on what World Superbike's doing. They got the way they're balancing is completely different than the way we are. We don't know what their journey is going to look like over the next couple of years. So I think with the rules that we have in place now and through 27 kind of settles everything down a little bit, and we'll just see how it works out.
Yeah, I mean, I was happy to hear 2027
doing it organically, rather than try and force something.
Well, and it's clear World Superbike is this way too, but I mean, certainly MotoAmerica, it's a production motorcycle based series. We can only race motorcycles that the manufacturers make.
Right.
So if they're gonna start, and there's still some, obviously BMW, the CBR 1000, Honda, Aprilia now is involved, and there's enough leader bikes out there, and still continuing to be. But yeah, I mean, we can only go by what they make, clearly. So.
And when we talk to the manufacturers, the preference is still 1000 should be the Superbike class, and
Yep.
and personally, I like the noise. To me, the noise creates the spectacle. And we did a test with two of the riders at MotoAmerica where they had loud pipes on the Supersport bikes, and it was pretty ear piercing, but it's not 1000 cc, So.
Yeah. I think that's good. I mean, we always leave some on the table, but we don't want to completely blow you away. And
we want to have something to talk about next year.
Yeah, and you're busy on a race weekend anyway.
Sure.
You've always got stuff going on. But, final round, it's going to be pretty exciting. Oh, I want to say this real quick. I've said this a few times in we have a meeting with our whole group. And I've always said the sweet spot for us is 5 classes at every round. And I think we're doing that next year. I think every round maybe there's one with 6.
We're trying. We still have the Royal Enfield, what races they're going to participate in.
That's true.
But yeah, we're getting closer.
Yeah, it feels good when it's that way. There's a little bit of time.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe the fans want more. I don't know, but it gives them a chance to do things, and it's just more reasonable, I think, for us. So we love it that way. So keep it up, Chuck.
No, thanks.
Okay.
I would like it to just be the
4.
same. No, I would like it to be
Same classes
same classes at every race, the same schedule, the same
Oh,
classes,
yeah.
and not this. Oh, what's this weekend? What's that weekend?
Right.
But I'm sure that'll happen eventually.
There's some challenges because the baggers, because of in some aspect, the cost of what it takes to run the baggers aren't ready to do the full season yet. We would love it if they did. Hooligans a little bit the same,
Right.
but is what it is. So we'll get there eventually.
Yeah, and I mean geography comes into it too. I know. I don't know if this is a conscious thing. Maybe it is. The classes, if they race at one track, some of the classes don't race at every track.
Right.
If they don't go the previous year, the chances are they're going to go the next year. So they kind of go. It's a little bit of an alternative. Is that how it's done?
Yeah, it's just to give them a little bit of variety, so they're not going to the same track every year.
Right.
And next year we have, I think it's a Talent Cup and Twins, maybe, no, not the Twins, but Talent Cup for sure, doing Laguna Seca and the Ridge, which they didn't do this year. So just mix it up a little bit. I think the competitors like that part of it rather than going to the same place every year.
I do too. Okay, well, thanks, Chuck. Appreciate
All right, thanks,
you having
guys.
being on.
We'll see you next year, I guess.
Okay.
Let's hope.